On today's episode of the Box2box podcast, we continue with the off-season mini-series that we've been doing when we look at the top 5 players in each position of the Barclaycard Premier League era. On today's episode, we talk about fullbacks. Onto the podcast we go. Hello, and welcome to the third episode of the off-season mini-series that the Box2box podcast will be doing. It's of the best Premier League players in every single position. We've already covered goalkeeper and centre-backs. If you haven't had a chance to have a listen to them, please do go back and have a listen. On today's episode, we're going to go through the top 5 fullbacks. We decided to go for right and left back because, surprisingly, thinking of it, there's not that many world-class fullbacks that have actually played in the Premier League. But yeah, so we'll go on to the podcast we go. I'm joined once again by Reza. How you doing, mate?
Good, thanks, mate. How are you?
Yes, I'm not too bad, thank you. Not too bad, thank you, mate.
Good. And yeah, you're right. It's I found this quite difficult, so I'm glad that we combined it into one list as opposed to having left backs and right backs, because I would have really struggled then.
No, I know what you mean. It was one of those where for the other two, I've sort of you get a list of players that have great players that have played in that position, and I was like, about 7, and that was for right back and left back. So yeah. Anyway, we shall move on. So, if you haven't listened before, we'll do top 5 from 5 to that down to number 1. Reza will go first, and I'll go after him. So Reza, who's at your number 5?
So I've gone for Gary Neville at
G
number
Nevs.
5. Yeah. I think that it's a difficult one, isn't it? I think when you listen to people talk about Gary Neville, even when he talks about himself, he was very fortunate to be in a very, 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 very good team. And he always had someone solid in front of him and good midfielders to cover. So he was good, don't get me wrong. And obviously he's England's first choice right back for a long time. And he was generally pretty good for United. He loved the club and he tried hard, gave his all every game. And you've got to give kudos to someone who holds their hand up after one game of football and goes, "Do you know what? I'm done. I've lost it now." I can't remember who was playing against.
West
He
Brom
spoke about
away.
it fairly. Was it? Yeah, he spoke about it fairly recently, and he was like, "That was the moment when he knew he was done. Like it was over." So Gary Neville is my choice for 5th best.
The 5th best, Gary
Premier
Nevs.
League. Yeah,
G Nevs number
Premier League
5.
era.
Fair enough. Who's your number 4?
So, I mean, I couldn't not have him in this list.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's not been plying his trade in the Premier League for that long. I don't know. Do you know who it is?
You're saying for not that
Who's
long.
coming?
I'm going to go maybe Trent.
No, mate, no.
Go on.
No. Cancelo.
Oh, your boy. I thought he'd be 1. I genuinely thought he was going to be number 1.
No, don't be silly. He's unreal. I can't think, really. There's very few, obviously you'll see in a second, there's very few fullbacks that I believe are better than him. I think as an all-round footballer, he's fantastic. He, again, like Gary Neville, obviously he does play in an unbelievable team, so it does help to mask some of his deficiency, because there are some. He does make mistakes and he does have a tendency to leave some gaps in behind him and things. But overall, I think he's an absolute G. And he had to be in my list, just
Is your boy.
partially for obviously partially for the comedy factor, right? Because I think people would have been, anyone who listens, they probably would have been expecting him to be in this list, just the way I fawn over him every bloody week. Obviously, there's no football on at the moment, so I've got to get my kick somehow. And this is my chance. So
I saw you buying him on FIFA.
Yeah. So yeah, Cancelo, number 4.
Fair enough. That's your number 4. Who makes it as who gets the bronze medal?
Dennis Irwin.
Oh, unreal. Mr. Consistent.
Always reliable. right? And he was part of the United team that really kick-started the whole United dominance in the Premier League under Alex Ferguson. So just superb, really good free kick taker, took penalties for United as well. And just consistency, Mr. Consistency. Like that was it. He was just consistent week in, week out. He'd always perform, always gave his all. And I don't think he gets as much credit as perhaps he deserves. But I think part of that is the fact that I don't think fullbacks ever in his era, I don't think they did anyway. Um,
Yeah, he didn't really
it's
rely on a
only
fullback that much.
no, it's only really the modern game, the past what 10, 12 years. Obviously, Roberto Carlos was obviously the one that most people remember, right? He was kind of the first superstar fullback, and you had Cafu,
Dani Alves.
obviously. Yeah, Dani Alves, the all Brazilian. And even then, like you had likes of like Philip Lahm when he started playing at right back and things, and I think you started to appreciate more and better what fullbacks brought to the game. But I think in Irwin's era there wasn't that, so I think he's a little bit underappreciated. But I think
Yeah.
now people looking back, they realise that actually he was solid.
Oh, I can see that. All right, so that does 5-3. Who gets your silver medal?
So Silver is Patrice.
Pats, big old Pats.
Um, I remember when he signed, we had Gabriel Heinze at left back, and he was unbelievable. Absolutely incredible left back, really good. He wasn't as good going forward, but defensively, he was unbelievable. He was incredible. And we signed Evra, you're like, who's this guy? We've got Heinze. And then he started playing, and I mean, it was the same winter that we signed Vidic. I mean, what a January transfer window, right? Unbelievable. And yeah, so Patrice Evra, I love his attitude, his outlook on life as well. He's just a character, funny guy, and he loves United. I'll never forget was it the Michael Carrick testimony?
Yeah, where we went to,
Um,
and that guy shouted, "I love this
yeah,
game."
yeah, and when he was like when he started singing, he was like OT baby, OT, I'm coming home. That it was just amazing. And I think that if it weren't for obviously my number one, he would absolutely be the best fullback in the Premier League scene. He was superb, and he even continued to do it after he left United. He left far too early because actually he was a real baller at Juve as well when he went. So yeah, Patrice at number two.
Yeah, Patrice doesn't sort of get the plaudits that he deserves sometimes when I hear to people talking about fullbacks and stuff like that. He doesn't tend to get a look in for a lot of people. But he was a fucking good fullback that had a goal in him as well. He used to go forward quite a lot.
Yeah,
Somehow I don't know how he's one of the smallest people in the box, but he always got his head on it. Fucking like
yeah.
Ronaldo jump.
He was really athletic, wasn't he? Just an athletic player, got up and down the pitch well, not for 90 minutes. And his era was really the kind of, I think that he had a balance to his game that a lot of other fullbacks didn't have.
Yeah,
It was very much you were either defensively solid or you were solid going forward. I mean, look at Danny Alves. Danny Alves was shocking defender. Um, so I mean, maybe that's a bit harsh, but he wasn't. His defensive prowess wasn't what he was known for, right?
that's because
Ever, I think,
the
had a better
majority of the
balance.
time he was fucking standing by the penalty spot. That's
Yeah.
why.
um, it's the same for my number one. I think that he struck a balance that's actually quite hard to come by,
Yeah.
um, which is why they're my number one and number two.
Right, so silver medal goes to Pats. Number one, I think I know what your number one's going to be, but please go ahead. Let me know who is the best fullback for yourself.
I mean, it pains me because the guy's a douchebag, but it's Cashley Cole.
Cashley Cole.
Um, yeah, he was excellent, right? Going forward, defensively, he was sound. Just really, really, really good. Um, obviously his rep wasn't great. Um, obviously when he left Arsenal, he got obviously the Cashley Cole branding. Obviously his marriage to Cheryl Cole and everything. I think there was a lot to dislike about him, but as a footballer, um, I obviously I believe that he is the best fullback that the Premier League seen
I
thus
think,
far.
yeah, I think he's one of the best fullbacks in the world at the point when he was at his best. I think that's what puts him as the best in the Premier League. Because even though we've gone through our list, I don't think any of them have been the best in the world at their position. Whereas he's probably the only one that has.
Yeah, yeah, I go along with that, and I think that you said about Evra not maybe getting the plaudits that he perhaps deserved. I think because they're fullback, and it's rare to have fullbacks of real top quality, and obviously Evra played in the Ashley Cole era. I think there's something to do with it. Obviously, from being English and everything helps as well, right? He'll have that kind of the English press bias toward English players and everything. But it would be interesting to hear what others feel. Obviously, I'm looking forward to hearing what you say. But for me, Ashley Cole number one, unfortunately.
Fair enough. That does your list. Pretty strong list of players. If Joao Cancelo hadn't have been in there, I think I'd have had to have ended the stream and said, right, start this again. And then you're going to have to take one out and put him back in, because either that or somewhere in the world his heart would have broken. Wherever he is on holiday at the moment, all of a sudden he's just, and I get a feeling when someone's like, they say when someone's walking your grave, you get like shiver down the spine. He'd be like,
Yeah.
Rez has just done a top 5 without me in it, and all of a sudden his back's going to twinge, like, it's like something out of Space Jam or something like that. But yeah,
Go on then. Well, if he's not in yours, I'll be very upset as well.
unfortunately, you're going to be very upset. I'm afraid. I haven't got him in mind.
Right. Well, on that note, then let's hear your five.
So my number 5 is, pains me to put him in, but I genuinely believe right now he's probably the best left back in the league. And within a couple of years, I think he might even get higher on the list as Andy Robertson.
Oh no,
It
mate, come
pains me so
on.
much. It pains me. It does pain me.
What you doing?
But if you're talking about a left back that just doesn't stop running all day long, gets forward and gets back, puts in some unbelievable tackles, is not scared of anybody, and will clatter people, he's a great left back. Um, there was a couple others that I did flirt with, but I genuinely think he's just a little bit better at the fullback position. It was between him and your boy, and I just think he edges it for me personally. That's just it's my opinion, mate. It's my opinion at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, and you're entitled to your opinion, whether how no matter how wrong it is. It's
I
just
need
you're
to say
entitled to
that. He's my number 5 anyway.
it. Okay, fair enough. Well, let's move on quick then. Wiki, let's get to number 4.
Number 4 is Gene Evs. I think
Yeah.
really for the same reasons that you said, I can't really say much else on Neville. Um, he in a way he was sort of Mr. Consistent with Dennis Irwin, because he would give you a good performance every single week. But I don't think he was. You could class him as the best in the league. I think you'd do a dishearten to the 3 people that I've got above him, basically. Anyway, I think you'd be a bit harsh to put him above any of those 3 in terms of how good they were. Neville for me was more just about a consistent good. So he did it over however many seasons it was. I think I read it was 19 that he played. But he probably 14/15 of those he was very good, and then he started to dwindle off as Raphael made his way into the scene. But yeah, and then like you say, yeah, he did have Beckham in front of him. He did have Rio Ferdinand next to him. He did have Yap Stam next to him. Yeah, these sort of things you're sort of looking at it going, you've got like the best centre backs in the Premier League, best right midfielder in the Premier League. Yeah, so he was helped a lot along the way, shall we say? But yeah, he is my number 4.
Yeah, no, yeah, I think everything you said is fair, and I think you're right. I think the consistency really kind of puts him up in that upper echelon of fullbacks. So yeah, no disagreements there. Say unlike the last one. So number three,
Number
let's hear
three,
it.
Pats. Number
Number
three.
three.
Yeah, number three.
Oh,
I'll justify my reason, the reason why he's not three and
let's
not
hear
number
this
two.
bullshit.
No, so number two is the reason why I'll justify Pats isn't number three. But Pats, I've loved Pats for ages, absolutely ages. When he hit that strike against Bayern Munich, I don't think I've ever been as happy at watching football. When that Champions League, when Moyes' first season in charge, I know we lost the game, but fucking just all of a sudden Patrice ever pops up at the edge of the box, smashes it crossbar and in. It's like Pats. I've always loved Pats. He was unbelievable for me. I've always been a massive admirer of him. Can go forward, can defend. Has got a little bit of silk and a little bit of flair in him, which I like as well. And then everything you've mentioned as well. I can't really say much more about how much I love Pats, but I try to take emotion out of it when making the lists, and yeah, two and one, two for reasons why I'll say in a second, and then one probably because yeah, you'll understand why when I do two and one.
Okay. Right. Well, on that note, then let's hear your two.
My two is Dennis Irwin,
Okay.
and the reasoning behind me having Dennis Irwin at number two is I believe Dennis Irwin could play right back or left back. So it didn't matter where you put him in terms of the back, whether you wanted him right back, whether you wanted him left back. He was good with his right foot, good with his left foot. Mr. Consistency, 8 out of 10, 7 to 8 out of 10 every single week. He could take a penalty, he could take a free kick, take a corner. I just think all round game and how the multiple positions that he could play and did play just puts him ahead of Pats for me. I just think he was an unbelievable player for United. And it was just something that when he did eventually leave, it left a massive void, and pretty much until Pats came in. I know we did get Heinze, but with Heinze, I always felt like he was wanting to leave. Or it seemed that way. It always seemed like he just wanted to go, and he wasn't as
I think obviously
consistent.
the Liverpool saga affects Heinz's legacy at United, doesn't it, massively? I think
Yeah,
that the fact that he pushed to go to Liverpool, and then he threw his toys out the pram when Ferguson was like, "You don't go to Liverpool."
mm.
I mean, he ends up at Real Madrid. Um, yeah, I understand what you're saying. But I think that has a part to play from a United fan's perspective because we'll never forgive him or forget that.
Yeah.
Trying to push for that move when Real Madrid's on the cards. You're like, well, like, why would you? You're only doing that out of spite. And I understand from his perspective, maybe the Evra signing was a little bit out of the blue, a bit of a shock to him because it wasn't like we needed a replacement, right?
Yeah, we didn't
Um,
need to replace him, but I just think that healthy competition for places is always going to be there.
yeah, 100%.
Like you
It's
think
good. It's good
we have
for
three strikers, and then you end up going to sign like Teddy Sheringham.
yeah,
So it's like you've got three good strikers already, and then you sign another brilliant striker, so you've got four brilliant strikers. You don't see them all sitting there going, "I want we all and leave." Same with
yeah.
well, Tevez kind of did. I was going to say same with Tevez, but we signed Berbatov, and he was like, "I want to go." But then again, no, he didn't actually want to go, did he?
No, he didn't.
He
It was
wanted to stay.
well,
We just wouldn't pay his agent
that was it. Yeah,
the
the
money
Kia Jabrakrim.
because
Yeah,
he was owned by that consortium, wasn't he? He wasn't actually owned by a
he
club.
was. Yeah,
And we didn't want to give them the money, so we didn't bother signing him.
yeah,
But
that's it.
anyway, yeah, that's why Dennis Irwin is my number two, Mr. Consistency, um, and just sheerly mainly because of the fact he could play right or left back. It is the reason why I put him in there. And seeing as we've said fullbacks, then yeah, if someone who could play either side, you're definitely gonna be up there. Cancelo maybe.
Robertson gets in and Cancelo doesn't, mate. You've got
Cancelo
problems.
if he plays another couple of seasons, at the level he's playing right now, he'll be put in there as well. There's a couple other names that after I give you my number one, I wanted to talk to you about in terms of in future lists, what it's going to be like, or whether they could make it in future. But yeah, I'll go to my number one, Ashley Cole, same as yourself. When you're looking at left backs, he was the best in the world in his position for a good couple of years. I know Pats was probably challenging him at the time. It was that time when sort of Roberto Carlos was coming to the end of his career, and there wasn't really another left back that was as good as Ashley Cole. The battles he had with Ronaldo and other Man United players and other best players in the world, and he seemed to somehow keep him quiet. Not all the time, that's impossible, but a lot of the time he did seem to keep like the likes of Ronaldo, the likes of Messi and stuff like that quiet when he was playing against them, or the team that was playing him. So to say United or Messi was moved infield, Ronaldo was moved to the other wing, sort of thing, and then Owen Hargreaves was put over there just to stop him Cole from going forward. So when you're getting that much respect from a manager like Fergie, you must be a very good left back.
Yeah, I mean, obviously always did a really good job on on Ronaldo. Um, so yeah, it's I can appreciate and understand and say like obviously he's my number one as well for similar-ish reasons. Really, I think you're right. What you said earlier, at his time in his position, he was the best in the world, whereas I don't think any of the others were.
No, I don't think you could say that about any of the others at any time. Um,
No,
no, so that's probably the reason why I put him at number one.
yeah,
Right, anyway, even though
fair.
that's the list's done, there was two names that I had on there that I wanted to discuss with you in terms of take Joao Cancelo out of sit formation because you've had him in your top five. The other two names that I was thinking of, Reece James.
Yeah,
The reason why I couldn't put him anywhere near my list was genuinely and only because of the fact he's only been in the Premier League for a couple of seasons. Um,
I, yeah. I think his best position is wing back as well,
yeah, I
right
know,
wing
I
back.
do know what you mean. So it would be very hard to have a wing back, but he looked to me to be some fucking player.
Yeah,
It's hard because I know obviously Chelsea play three at the back and then five at the back basically, but they go forward a lot. And a wing back is obviously a lot different to right back, but you'd still be classed in that bracket. Um, so Reece James one, and then the other is Trent Alexander-Arnold. Could you feel in 3 to 4 years' time he's on this list? What? Yes? No?
possibly, possibly. I don't know what it is. I just don't. I don't see it. I genuinely don't see it. Maybe I'm just it's like anti-Liverpool bias, and I can't see it because I don't want to see it. I don't understand what the Fawning is about. He is defensively okay, and he can whip a ball into the box. Um, David Beckham made a career out of whipping the ball into the box, and you'll never hear him mentioned as one of the best right wingers. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, people have mentioned him saying he's a good right winger, but when it comes to best players in the world, and like Danny Alves going forward had more to his game than Trent does currently. But maybe if he develops, you're right. Maybe if he develops a little bit, takes people on, his biggest asset is his crossing ability, right?
Mhm.
Um, and his defending is it's okay. It's not mega, it's not stellar, but then they don't need to, right? That's not what Liverpool are about at this moment in time. I think that it's obviously the collective, the unit, as opposed to the individual. So maybe.
I I think I'd like to
I
see him
think
under another
Reese,
manager.
yeah, yeah, under a different style of football. I
Yeah,
think that Reece James looks the more balanced, more well-rounded
yeah.
player of the two. Um, Trent, there's always going to be an argument, right? That the way Liverpool play football is different. And if I don't think he will, I think he's probably going to be a careerer there. I think if you take him out of that team, let's say stick him in Man City, is he as good? Does he get in front of Walker and Cancelo? I don't think he does. Not now, at least. Kyle Walker, I think he's better attacking than Kyle Walker for sure. But Kyle Walker's got that pace that is just unreal, that recovery pace. And Cancelo's just a better footballer.
Yeah.
And then you look at the other teams. Yeah, of course he'd get into. Would he get into Chelsea's team? Probably not.
I don't think
Certainly
he would
not.
above Reece James.
No. So then the others, it doesn't really count, right? Because yeah, he'd walk into all of the teams. But maybe, like I say, maybe I am being harsh. Maybe I am. Maybe the Liverpool bias is playing a little bit here, and I just don't want to see it. I don't like him. I know that's kind of slightly irrational, but I just don't like him.
No, fair enough.
Whereas, yeah, Reece James is more likable for me personally, and I think that all round he's a better footballer. So Reece James definitely, Trent Alexander-Arnold possibly.
It was only I was just looking at because, like I said, I brought a number of names down in order to cover in the positions that we're doing. So for fullback, I've got that's pretty much all the names that I've got down here. In terms of what I've mentioned now. No, I'm not even going to respond to it. Yeah, so that's all the names I've got down here that that can be world class, I think, or like can be in the list. I just thought what you'd think about Reece James and Trent. I think I'm pretty much the same as yourself, really.
Aren't you? You're just trying to upset me.
No, your boy's in your list, mate. Don't. I could have put Trent in there instead of Andy Robertson. Then you'd have been even more fuming.
I don't know whether I would. I don't know. Why too honest?
I should have just played safe and put Reece James in there.
Yeah.
Anyway, that does it for this episode. Another little mini series that we've got going on. Please comment on the YouTube video what your top 5 fullbacks of Premier League era would be. Interesting to see what it is. If you disagree or agree with any of our lists, if you do disagree with Cancelo, make sure you don't mention it because Rez will not like it. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, speak to you soon.